Okay, we have finished our very first character in the Magitech Chronicles. As you're going to see, the character sheet even is in beta. We only have the first page of 2, and so I made some compromises on this sheet that I wouldn't ordinarily do. Perks and flaws should be on page 2, but I kind of wrote them in on page 1. Let's go over stats, and I can explain how I arrived at everything so you can see sort of a practical application of the rules. You can see, obviously, I've recorded the basics, so we've got his race, his archetype and path, and name. But hit points, spell points, and initiative, let's go over those real quickly. Hit points primarily come from fortitude. So it's 5 hit points per point of fortitude. He managed to get a 5 fortitude, as we'll cover when we get to attributes. So that was 25 hit points just from fortitude, and then also what he gets from his path. And so he ended up with 40 full hit points. It's a lot of hit points. He's very, very tough, much tougher than most characters are going to be. 20 to 30 is a much more common hit point total. Anything north of 40 is extreme, and 50 is you really game the system to get as high as you can. Spell points, he's got 17, which is middle of the row. That's good, but it could be better, that's for sure. He would love to have more spell pool, but there just aren't enough points to go around. He has a 4 will, which is really good, and that's where most of this comes from. 12 of the spell pool come from will. He would love to have that a 5 and even put a perk in to get 3 more, and there's other ways to get spell pool, but he was unable to do so because he needed it elsewhere. For initiative, all he has is the +2 from his path. So what you do for each combat is roll a d6, you add it to that 2, and then that's your current initiative for that combat. It resets every combat. For attributes, you can see he got a couple of them higher with perks, and then you have one here, strength, where it's got that 3 and then the 4 in parentheses. That 4 in parentheses indicates that he's getting it from some other source, like an item. And if we scroll down, in his case, he's getting it from his spell armor, which gives +1 strength. So in addition to giving great armor and a little bit of magic resistance, it gives him +1 strength. Okay, so he's got a 3 agility, which is good, a 5 fortitude, which is incredible, that's peak human, a 3 strength, which is good, but the spell armor makes it great, so it's a 4, so much, much stronger than most people. So he's definitely built to be kind of a frontline combatant. And you can see that because he's got that one-handed spell blade, and then also note that he has a spell shield. So he looks very much like Aaron does on the cover of Tech Mage. So he's got that spell shield and a spell blade. Okay. His mental faculty is not quite as good, but still good. So he's got a 3 reason, which he chose as his expression attribute. That means that when he's spell casting, he's going to be using reason. 2 intuition, which is average. It's not bad, but it's not good. And then will, he's got a very high will. He definitely is resolved, and that manifests in both the spell pool that he has available and also in the cap on his skepticism, which will be very, very important. So when we get to defenses, we'll talk about those caps and why those will matter down the road. And then finally, if we get to the last 2 attributes here, he's got a 3 appearance because he's inner and he got a +1, and then a charisma of 2. So for an inner and he's not terribly attractive or charismatic, but for a normal person, he is quite attractive. Okay, so jumping over here to defenses, you can see he's got a 3 brace, a 2 skepticism, and a 2 dodge. Now with defenses, as we learned when we purchased defenses, they're capped based on certain attributes. Well, he raised those attributes so that down the road, there's a lot of potential for these to grow. He can get all the way up to a 5 brace because that's tied to his fortitude. And he can get all the way up to a 4 skepticism because that's tied to his will. And then for dodge, he can buy that up to 3, which he almost certainly will. So these are going to be almost every one of his early experience purchases. And what I do as an author, since this is a character in my fiction, is I write their experience total. So as they're going through novels, I'll award them experience just like I would a player, and will purchase things and raise these. And so in my head, I have that, sort of my head canon. His skepticism and dodge aren't terribly impressive. His brace is good, but not amazing. But where he makes up for it is armor and resistances. So 5 armor is really, really high, and he gets that again because he's using both a spell shield and wearing spell armor. And then for magic, he has 7 magic resistance, which is really, really high. 5 of that comes from being a paladin, and then he gets 1 each from the spell shield and the spell armor. So he's almost as tough as you can get as a starting character against magic. Like, you really have to work hard to affect a paladin his caliber, no matter what spells you're using. And because he has a life catalyzation, life spells in particular just won't do anything to him, really. The first 10 points of that will be mitigated before it does anything. So he's really tough against magic. He's pretty tough against physical things, and can definitely take a beating with that high hit point total. So that's exactly what he is built to do. And you'll see every part of the character reflects that. So if you go down to flaws, he's got clueless, which is -1 perception checks, because he understands that he is meant to be a tool. He serves his soul catcher, and she tells him where to go, what to do, and kind of who to be. And so he's just, around waiting to take orders. And so he doesn't look around as often as other people would, and he has that -1 perception as a result. He's kind of a dick because he's a man out of time, and he's coming from the height of a galactic empire, the dragonflights ruling everything, and harmony and peace and knowledge, and just this wonderful place, utopia, to be a part of. And he's emerged in kind of a wasteland where almost every god is dead, and mortals are fighting over the scraps of their bodies. So he's kind of, not terribly nice to the people around him. He has a low opinion of his current age. And then finally, because he's from another time, he's a fashion victim. He always wears the wrong thing because he doesn't understand what people can and should be wearing in the current time. So he'll be role-playing those throughout narratives, and you'll see him do things that reflect these. And then what happens is he'll get awarded luck whenever he does that. In addition to being able to earn luck with your flaws, he also got perks to balance it. +1 fortitude from Shrug It Off, +1 brace, very powerful, from Kick Me in the Junk, and +1 will from Not Buying Her BS. So he really took advantage of those to sort of flesh himself out. Scrolling up a bit because we didn't cover this section, going over the spells and archetype abilities, he's got a Maker's Covenant. That covenant grants him a divine pact with the guardian of Inara. Inara is the Maker. He's got a covenant with Inara, and Inara grants him basically his choice of covenants, which we should go grab real quick. Here we go. So Holy Radiance was the one I was going to select. So basically what happens is you make a covenant with a deity, which Second has done. And in exchange, you get to pick a miracle that they will do for you. And in this instance, he took Holy Radiance. So once per day, he can fill the area around him with a protective barrier extending 10 meters in all directions, which is a good moderate distance. And any creatures of spirit, void, and dream may not pass through the aura. So that's undead, that's demons, that's, dream race, that's all sorts of critters that you would normally not want to deal with, can't even enter that area. They can still shoot you in the head from the neighboring ridge with a sniper rifle. I mean, it doesn't make you immune. But for a melee combatant, it's very strong because it keeps your melee foes at bay. So we're going to record Holy Radiance on his character sheet here. There we go. Radiance, and the type is Miracle. And you can see he's got 3 spells. Light Missile and Infuse attribute are granted by default. And then he got to select 1 more spell, so he picked Cure, because why would you not want to heal if you had Life Magic? And that's really all he can do, is he can heal himself and he can throw light missiles. You can see he's only got the 1 catalyzation, Life Magic represented here. And then if we come over to this side of the character sheet, you can see his skills. So this is the most important bit. These are the number of dice that he's rolling for each of these respective skills. And this is the mastery yes-no. So if it says yes, he's rolling 7 dice, and if he's any successes, any dice that roll a 4, 5, or 6 are counted as a success because it's a mastery. If he does it for athletics, that's not the case. He only gets to count 5s or 6s. So he's really good at melee, religion, and piloting. Those are kind of his claims to fame. And he's decent at athletics, navigation, and range, but not amazing at those things. And he just ran out of skill points, as all starting characters should. When he is actually in combat firing as a player character, this is the area I would look at. So he's either firing his spell rifle, which will do 6 damage, has 1 accuracy, he's rolling a total of 6 dice, or he's hitting them with his spell blade, which is going to do 4 base damage, has the 1 accuracy, so he's rolling a total of 8 dice. And this is the choice he's going to make most of the time, because 8 dice with a 50% success rate on each die. So he's probably going to get 4 successes every time he makes a roll, which is pretty good. And that's going to be his choice. Whereas with a spell rifle, he's not as good. But you know what? If you don't want to close a distance with a combatant, it's perfectly fine to stay at range and hit them with light missiles. Anyway, that's his total character. And you can see it's not terribly complicated. The system is very straightforward and easy to play. And most of the rules here are on the character sheet. We will have another version of the character sheet once I get the feedback to the creator and have them make some changes. And alongside that will come a second page, which is pretty cool. It's got a paper doll of spell armor where you record all your information. I really like what they've done with that. But anyway, we're done with character creation. So thanks for writing out the process. And if you have any questions, Please leave comments. I will answer those. And, you know, I'm happy to also take feedback on the system. If you're actually playing the Magitech Chronicles using these rules, what do you think? Are there problems that you want to talk about? I will address those in the comments on the video, so please feel free to leave those. Thank you again for being along for the ride, and there are plenty of other videos on the channel to check out if you want to see world building for the Magitech Chronicles or just gaming information in general.